Yeah, I mean, I think you get a pop short term like you see here, but I mean, look, no, you don't even have to look back more than a month when Google announced, Alphabet announced it just recently. You saw part of it was a pop on that, and then the stock has done nothing since then. So I wouldn't read too much about it. Amazon, it's a name we like for the long term, but we wouldn't use this as any reason by any stretch to buy the stock, and nor would we ever use a stock split announcement as a reason to become incrementally more positive on the stock. Especially nowadays, all these brokers allow you to buy fractional shares, so it's even more, it's even less important.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this is a company which this is not its first stock split. If you go back to not in the years after it came public in the late 90s, there were a couple of splits, I believe. And of course, that's back when stock splits were much more matter of routine. Companies didn't want to have a 4-digit stock price for practical reasons and costs of trading and things like that. Are we seeing at all a reversal in that long-term trend, Paul, in terms of companies' willingness to let their share prices just keep climbing indefinitely?
I think part of it is, it's a discussion for another time probably, but I think what you saw is coming out of the financial crisis and as stocks were rallying, companies were hesitant to split their stock because they had seen two separate periods where the market fell 50%. And then they didn't want to be caught in a period where they split their stock and it was trading at 50, and then, it got down to, a real low, much lower price. So I think part of that was a hesitancy. And then as things just continued to run, it was less important, the share price, as far as individual investors being able to buy and sell the stock because of fractional shares and other things. So, I mean, I think you're starting to see, as you get into the thousands here, I think these share prices companies are now more willing to split the stock just because these things are becoming so monstrous in terms of their share prices that, it's just become so far out of the norm.
Of course, you read into it the why. Yeah. Why now? What is the signal from the management about attracting a new base of investors, retail consumers? Paul, what do you make of the stock's underperformance? I mentioned it underperformed in the rally today and has been for the last few weeks and months.
Yeah, well, I think you look back. I mean, one of the biggest beneficiaries of the COVID lockdowns was Amazon, and it did well. And what you've seen over the last several months is all these stocks that were the biggest winners from COVID are starting to see have underperformed. Amazon hasn't underperformed to nearly the degree as some of the biggest winners, like say a Peloton or a Zoom, but incrementally, people who had moved to online shopping when they were during the lockdowns are doing less of that now and getting out more. So, I mean, I think it's just a digestion period. But for the long term, again, Amazon's a name that they have just shown time and time again to be able to not necessarily reinvent themselves, but to go into different sectors and be successful. Not always, hitting a home run, but they're going out there and they're experimenting, and some of these experiments have ended up doing quite well for the company.
Andy Jassy's been CEO for 8 months or so, 9 months. Took over from the founder, Jeff Bezos, and again, we're just putting people on the couch here. We have no idea. We're speculating on motivations. But I do remember when Tim Cook took over Apple from Steve Jobs, and the stock's high, which at the time I believe was 700, was trading well below that. I think there's a way in which it can kind of hang over the head of a new CEO, and he did the 7-for-1 split. It rebased the nominal share price to 100, and then it just kind of clears the decks, right? It just sort of says, okay, we're no longer, Amazon no longer has to look up at $3,500, which is the high, whatever it was. We have a new number, and we can just take it from there. And I think it's an employee. I mean, look, I think reverse splits do the same thing, like a GE when they did a reverse split. So, Paul, I don't know if you want to participate in my psychologizing here, but that's one of my reads.
I'm on the couch now. I can after we were done, I have a lot to talk about. Can you help me, Mr. Santoli or Dr. Santoli?
Yeah, it's a safe space here, Paul. Come on.
No, but I mean,
5 p.m. over cocktails.
I think you bring up valid points. New CEO, new era, and try to, like you said, clear the decks and have my own stock price benchmark to look back at and to judge myself against.
Paul Hickey, thank you. I'll set up that
Thanks
appointment for you.